Hello, hi, hope you're doing well. I've never really done a video like this before. I usually script them and I'm not usually in front of the camera, but I just thought I'd mix it up. This is going to be a very casual video. I just have a random tripod. I'm filming this with my phone and a microphone that's obviously meant to be sitting on a desk. We're just gonna roll with it. And also I don't have any light source. I just have a light outside that I like to call the sun. That's all. So this is gonna be a loose, fun, casual video. I just thought we'd have a fun little chat. That's not how YouTube videos work. You're just gonna sit there and listen, I suppose. But let's just have a chat because I just really wanted to talk about I really wanted to talk about the Suicide Squad. Let's make sure we're talking about the right one today. So there's two reasons I wanted to make this video. One, where I live, we are currently in what I would estimate is our 48th lockdown. So at this point, I'm kind of bored. I have nothing to do. So I had the spare time to make this video just because I kind of felt like it. And secondly, and probably more importantly, I've noticed there's a weird discourse surrounding this movie. I can't say I'm personally a fan of the... how do I phrase this? I can't say I'm a fan of the culture that's beginning to surround this movie, especially on film Twitter. So there's a few pages I follow on Twitter who absolutely adore this movie, like a lot of people. A lot of people are absolutely loving this film. They're loving James Gunn's originality, the quirkiness of it, the way characters are handled, the action, the visuals. I get it. That's amazing, and I absolutely love that this movie is getting a great response. However, there's also a culture surrounding this movie online now, again, mainly on film Twitter, where if you don't like this movie, or if you have something negative to say about it, people just shoot you down, like straight away. Like they don't have time to listen to your opinion. They're just going to tell you you're wrong. And I know compared to everything else that's happening in the world, this is not remotely important. It's just people online talking about a movie. I just feel as though people should be able to feel comfortable expressing their opinion on a movie, obviously. And this movie's starting to get an energy where it's almost like you're not allowed to criticize it, or people are going to be afraid not to review the movie or discuss it online if they have any negative thoughts, just out of fear of how people are going to respond to that. And the closest thing I can think of is The Dark Knight. And don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. With The Dark Knight, if you have anything negative to say about that movie, you have to like that movie. You can't say anything bad about it. If you do, people are just like, no, you're wrong. Which is weird. Full disclosure, I really like The Dark Knight. It's a very good movie, but if I'm being honest, there's a few things I don't like about that movie, and it's not even my favorite movie in the trilogy. And that's fine to say. I should be allowed to say that. So with that being said, I just wanted to talk about some things in the Suicide Squad that didn't quite work for me. I had a really good time with the movie and I really enjoyed it. I think James Gunn really played to his strengths a lot of the time. I think the characters worked much better compared to the 2016 version, had a better dynamic. My two personal favorite characters in the movie were Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport. Ratcatcher 2 was really good. She had a lot of moments in the film where she came across as very sympathetic, and I was already rooting for her by the time we got to the scene on the bus where she tells us about how she lost her father. So at that point I was already on board with the character, but to learn more about her was really endearing, and I really liked her. I especially loved the moment where she told Bloodsport that she'd help get him home safe. Speaking of Bloodsport, Idris Elba was really good in the role. I think he was a great lead to have in the movie. He bounced off the characters really well. He had some great moments of dialogue, and his action was always really strong. And just real quick, I thought the score worked pretty well. The action was pretty fun a lot of the time. Rick Flag was really good. The visual effects were flawless, if you ask me. The way objects within the film were used to spell out like the title cards and words and stuff looked really good. Very creative, very clever. And it's a good little way to make the movie feel a bit unique compared to other films in the genre. But I just feel as though this is a movie where people should feel comfortable to have an open discussion about their thoughts. So that's why I just want to talk about some things that I thought didn't work too well for the movie, or they just didn't work too well for me. The first thing I'll mention is something that is very subjective, so you could easily disregard what I'm saying right now, but I'm going to say the comedy didn't work for me too much. There were definitely a couple of jokes that I had a good laugh and a couple of chuckles. A lot of the comedy in this movie reminded me of James Gunn's comedy in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. A lot of which I think is quite immature and not particularly funny, or always kind of felt like certain jokes were just like the first draft of the joke and they hadn't gone back to tighten it up, but they just left it as it was. The style of comedy that James Gunn approached in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he carries over into the Suicide Squad, and it just doesn't work for me too much. The whole gag with Polka Dot Man and his mum was interesting the first time. Didn't think it was funny, but it was interesting. I'm not going to blabber on about the comedy in this movie because comedy is very subjective, so there's no point in me trying to justify my opinion on the comedy, but if I'm being entirely honest, a lot of the comedy didn't work for me, but that's fine. Speaking of immature comedy, Peacemaker. He's fine, I guess. I was surprised to find myself not really enjoying his presence on screen. Like, I can't say he did a bad job, but he didn't really stand out. And most of his jokes weren't funny to me. Especially one of his earlier jokes about the starfish symbol and its relevance to the mission early in the movie. Like, that wasn't funny. Using that as a segue, we're just going to swim over to King Shark, who, if I'm being entirely honest, and I'm so sorry to say this because I know he has a lot of fans, I hated King Shark. I thought he was an awful character. He was probably my least favorite character in the movie. But let me just hear me out. Let me try to explain why. Even though Sylvester Stallone did a great job with the voiceover work, and he had some nice moments of levity, especially the mustache gag, really liked that one. He was just useless, and it really annoyed me. Like, he's really dumb, which I get is part of the character, so he's meant to be comedically dumb. But to me, he was just so dumb, and then he didn't contribute anything to the team at all. Amanda Waller kept saying how he's the muscle of the team, he's really strong and big, that's why we need him on the team. But from memory, and again, I've only seen the movie once, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember him actually doing anything of value that helped the team, thanks to his strength. Like, what did he do? There's a few moments where he'll grab a dude and shove him in his mouth and eat them. Peacemaker could have shot them. Bloodsport could have taken out that goon. Like, we didn't need King Shark there. He wasn't particularly helpful. Everything that he did in the movie that contributed to the mission, any other person could have done. He's putting the pieces of dynamite on the wall. Anyone could have done that. He took out a random guard. Anyone could have done that. In fact, others were already doing that. He just took his time to slowly eat one guard, while Bloodsport probably took out 5. In Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot, he's kind of dumb. He drinks out of a water fountain, blah, blah, blah. He's not the smartest guy. However, he helps Rocket put Peter Quill in a bag when they're trying to kidnap him at the start. He saves Rocket when the orb explodes in the Collector's vault. He takes out a bunch of prisoners in the kiln when the Guardians go to prison. And most importantly, I'd say, he creates a cocoon around the entire team and saves the Guardians of the Galaxy when Ronan's ship crashes at the end of the first film. There are several instances where Groot does something that contributes to the team and the plot. King Shark, on the other hand, you could probably take him out of the movie, and I can't imagine he'd actually affect the plot in the slightest. And while I'm talking about characters, I just want to talk about some side characters, particularly the freedom fighters that the squad help in the second half of the movie. After the squad makes an agreement with the freedom fighters leader that they'll help them take down the bad guy, the squad goes off to do their thing, and then we don't see any of the freedom fighters for at least half an hour in the movie, and then they briefly show up for the final battle and then do nothing. Like, they may be there, or maybe they get attacked by Starro straight away, so that's why they don't do anything. Like, I don't remember, but like, why do we waste screen time setting them up? I just think we wasted screen time on these freedom fighters. They were quite generic and boring and really didn't contribute to the plot after a certain point. Speaking of wasting screen time, let's talk about that little subplot that Harley goes on in the middle of the movie. What was that about? So in case you're confused, the subplot I'm referring to is when she's kidnapped, taken prisoner, and then she's taken to meet the prince, or the president, sorry, of I forgot what country they're in. But the president, she goes to meet the young president, and then she realizes that he wants to marry her. That whole thing, and then they're really happy together, and then she kills him because he's going to kill kids. You've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That was weird, wasn't it? Like, wasn't it weird? So there's a few reasons I think that subplot was a waste of time and doesn't quite work. Firstly, I just feel like it rehashes Harley's character arc that we've already explored in the previous 2 films she's been in. The first Suicide Squad was about how Harley was so dependent on a man, dependent on the Joker, and that kind of defined her. And then we get to Birds of Prey, where she's realized she shouldn't have to rely on a man, and she can be her own powerful individual. She's moved on from having to rely so heavily on one other person, and no longer feels as though her entire value comes from whether or not someone else values her. But then we get to this movie, and the main plot that she's involved in is that she falls in love with her captor. She falls in love instantly, already considers him a boyfriend after 5 minutes, and then she shoots him because she realizes he's a bad bloke, she shouldn't trust him, she can do her own thing. But that's the arc she's already been on. So it was a weird scenario to put her in, and then it just rehashed something we've already done with the character before. And then my second problem with this subplot is that it's completely unnecessary to the plot. So just to summarize this subplot, she meets her captor because he wants her to marry him so that the public like him more. But then she ends up killing him, so then that old guy, the general I believe, becomes the president instead. Right? why did we have to waste time introducing this younger president who has maybe one scene before he meets Harley, then has his montage of Harley, then dies? That's a good 5 minutes of screen time we wasted. Why didn't we instead just have this old guy be the general who is in charge of the Thinker and wants to use Starro to do all the evil things they want to do? Why did we need to waste time with the younger president if the old guy was just going to become the president anyway? That doesn't... And again, you could argue this subplot's necessary to have Harley's breakout scene later, but you could have just said that she was the only prisoner taken at the start of the movie from Suicide Squad A. You could say she was the only one that was taken prisoner, and eventually we see her again halfway through the movie, and she's reintroduced to the plot, and then she breaks out. Something like that, I'm not sure. Definitely a handful of other small things I didn't love about the movie too much. There's just some smaller choices here and there throughout the movie I can't say I'm a huge fan of, but they're very minor things and I don't really think they're worth discussing. But those are pretty much all my thoughts on James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I know this was a very disorganized video, but I just feel as though this is a movie that people should be able to openly discuss and not feel like they're going to be instantly judged or shot down for just voicing their opinions, no matter what those opinions may be. So please like the video. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. However, if you did want to hear any more of my movie opinions in a much more condensed, brief manner, you can check me out on Letterboxd. And this might be a good chance for me to plug my art account on Instagram. My Letterboxd and my Instagram are both linked in the description down below if you're interested in following. So again, thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your time today watching my random video. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.